right, so we have another episode here with Jimi Wolf Talks. We got Jeff Dumbrack, and I'm Jimi Wolf. And today we're going to be talking about our 5 least favorite albums from our 5 favorite bands. So we'll start with, I guess, number 5, which I guess could be maybe our least hated album of the 5. Up to our most hated album. We'll go back and forth, and we'll do one album per band. So let's start with you, Jeff. What's one of your least favorite albums from one of your favorite bands?
One of my least favorite albums from one of my favorite artists would be Cyberpunk by Billy Idol.
Oh, okay.
This was an absolute disaster of an album. All right, I got this great idea, right, to make a concept album, right, about the future and punk rock and all that. Billy Idol, at that point, I think that album came out in 1993. Billy Idol had never experienced a failure. He was involved in a motorcycle crash, and during the making of the previous album, and wiped his motorcycle out. He was almost killed, but and that album wasn't even that great, but it still did pretty well. The man had never failed at anything, really. His whole recording career was one success after the next, and I think Cyberpunk was just really. It was a man who thinks he can do no wrong, delving into he changed everything about himself. Steve Stevens wasn't involved anymore. There was not a lot of live drumming.
Dreadlocks.
Awful look, fucking awful. And to me, it was just hubris. It's a guy who doesn't think he can do anything wrong. And it was just a mess. I've tried to like it because I like everything Billy Idol ever did. Even he put in some stuff lately that's pretty good. But Cyberpunk is pretty much unlistenable. And in his biography, he says, right, I stand behind the album and all, but the audience just wasn't ready for the future. And really, that just means that basically you didn't give the audience what they wanted at all. The audience, and as an extension of that, after Cyberpunk, he did a song for the Speed soundtrack called Speed, which was right up Billy Idol's alley. You know what I mean? It sounded like vintage Billy Idol, and it was back to normal. And after Cyberpunk, he totally abandoned that sound, never went back to it, and for good reason.
So, okay, cool. Yeah,
don't get that one.
Yeah, it seems like Billy Idol is another casualty of the 90s. Yeah. Okay, so my first one is one of my favorite bands. Not a surprise to you, Jeff. I'm going to go with Aerosmith. I love these guys. I always have. So for me, this album, I don't think it's their worst album. That's why I'm putting it first here, or at number 5, because they have worst albums, but this one, it was just such a disappointment. When I got it as a kid, I was so let down. I tried my entire life to like it, and I gave up. I think last year I just gave up. I'm like, I don't think this is a very good record. I'm just going to admit it. And, they had 3 perfect albums, in my opinion. They had Get Your Wings, Toys in the Attic, and then Rocks. All 3 perfect albums, in my opinion. And then they came out with Draw the Line, was their 5th record. Came out in 1977. It's got a cool album cover. They're all kind of drawn, I guess, draw the line. But yeah, this is when the drugs were really starting to take over. The last 3 albums sound like, you're at a party, maybe you had 5 beers and you're just kind of rocking it. You're buzzing, but you're still in control. This album feels like they all had 20 beers. They're passing out, they're wetting themselves. they're crying. It just sounds like a disaster, really.
After the 20 beers, they've gone down to the basement where they've continued doing blow for the next 24 hours, and they're coming down. That's what this album is.
Yeah, it's just like zombie partying, right? You're just like, it's just you've gone beyond the line, right? It's, and it just kind of to give Draw the Line, I think, is one of their best songs, but it just sounds like a demo on this. Like, the production's terrible. I Want to Know Why is a great song. That's probably my favorite song on the record. Critical Mass, weird song, doesn't really have a chorus. It's kind of psychedelic. Just sounds like a mess to me. Like, Get It Up, cool demo. I don't know if it's good enough for a record, especially with what came before this. Bright Light Fright, that's a Joe Perry song. It's okay. Again, sounds like a demo. Kings and Queens is actually a great song. It's extremely depressing, but the intro riff is amazing. So this is another good song off this record. So I would say there's two really good songs on this album. But then The Hand That Feeds, Cypher Sore Eyes, Milk Cow Blues, it's like, I don't know, maybe 5 out of 10, 6 out of 10 at best. So yeah, just, it's Aerosmith in their prime period, but not in their prime. So yeah, this album really, I'm really disappointed from this album. Always have been. What say you, sir?
My next one on the list, we're going to continue with the theme of hubris here. In 1995, Duran Duran did an album called Thank You. It was a covers album. No thanks to them. When someone in the band says, "All right, mate, why don't we do a covers album?" It means really you're out of ideas. And, it's just ill-advised. Like, if you're a group people like, just make music, do what you do. Don't, I think it's very, very egotistical to think that you can sell your fans like other people's songs just the way you do them. People want what you do. Don't to me, it seems lazy. And, the fact of the matter is that at that point, Duran Duran had been releasing albums like so often. Like, this is 95. So we're 14 years into their career. They had never taken a 3-year gap ever in releasing albums. There was a 3-year gap between 1990's Liberty and the Wedding album. The Wedding album was a huge comeback for them. And then they did this, which was, it's almost like now, again, you're in the mid-90s. Things are different. I get it. But they just came back from a huge comeback. Critical and a critically acclaimed album. The fans loved it. And then you come back with this drivel. Again, I know the mid-90s were a difficult time for bands from the 80s, but just ill-advised. What they should have done instead is just back off, maybe not release anything, and take time to think about what they're doing, regroup, and come out with something that was good. Because cover albums just are. And the other thing, on this cover album, they did a cover of White Lines by Grandmaster Flash.
I remember that video. Yeah.
They love that song. I can't stand it. And they play it every single show they do, like clockwork. They never forget it. And I can't understand, like, they omit other songs from other albums at other points in their career that I like way more. They have other albums in their career that are better that they completely ignore. So Thank You by Duran. And more importantly, White Lines, just forget about it. Oh my God, guys, move on.
Okay, well, this is a perfect segue because the album is named after the Led Zeppelin cover, Thank You.
Really?
Yeah, and my next pick is from Led Zeppelin, probably my favorite band of all time. And I've never understood this album although to be honest, I'm growing a little bit to it. I'm accepting it a little more as I get older, but it's still a weird record for me, and that is In Through the Outdoor. So this was the last record with John Bonham, although they did do Coda after this record, but that was kind of a B-sides record. But yeah, In Through the Outdoor. This is a really strange album. Surprisingly, a lot of people online seem to praise this record, which is cool. But I've just never understood it. It feels like almost like a Robert Plant solo record. I think if I was to kind of give a description of what this album sounds like, it sounds like a band that you'd see at like an all-inclusive resort in some tropical island. You know, it's like it's the house band. You know, they're playing like different styles of music. You know, it's kind of fun. But yeah, nothing here really sticks out for me as being a great Led Zeppelin song. It just sounds like the band's doing all these different styles of music, you know, like kind of like boogie woogie sort of island music. There's one song called Cara Salambra. I don't even know if that's how you pronounce it, but it's the weirdest 10 minutes that I've ever heard. It sounds like Led Zeppelin trying to be disco. It's got some terrible synth sounds. It's bizarre. All My Love is just, I always thought it was just the cheesiest song. I'm Gonna Crawl. Robert Plant does sound pretty good on that song. Now Southbound Soares or Soares, I don't actually know how to pronounce that. Southbound Soares. That song is growing on me. Fool in the Rain's got a classic drum groove. So, you know, it's okay. I think the theme of my albums, if your albums is hubris, the theme of my albums is drug burnout. I think Jimmy Page was considered the leader of Led Zeppelin, and he was clearly suffering from a crippling heroin addiction at this point. If you see concerts of Zeppelin playing, he's skinny, he's sweating, he doesn't look good. And he doesn't sound good on this. I mean, this is really why the album really falls short for me, is that Jimmy Page is just not here. And when he is here, it doesn't sound good. So yeah. But, you know, this album sold very well. It was a huge success, and a lot of people love it. So, you know, but yeah, I'm sticking to my guns. When I first heard this, I hated it when I was a kid. And I think it's okay now, but yeah, definitely at the bottom of my Led Zeppelin album ranking for sure. Into the Outdoor.
My next one, 2009, No Line on the Horizon, U2. You know, we're way past 20 years into U2's career. Again, U2 can do no wrong, but like this album is just awful. And the lead single, called Get On Your Boots, is absolutely unlistenable. It is so fucking awful. I mean, Jimmy, all I can say to prove my point is just listen to that song. It is terrible. Now, there are some minutely rewarding things on this album. There are two songs. I got to look them up because I can't really remember what they're called, because I listened to this album. I don't listen to this album ever. It's that bad. It's the only one in my collection that I don't have. And like October isn't that great, but this one is absolutely awful. And
I actually agree with you.
Magnificent. I hate it too. One song Magnificent was okay. Again, it's a little much. I don't think it's awful, but I don't love it either. And the song "Breathe" I actually do kind of like. Um, I kind of the lyrics are nice. They also did a remake of the song "Breathe" for the Nelson Mandela movie. They kind of redid it a little more sparsely produced with maybe some like bongos or something like that. And I prefer the way they did it for that soundtrack. But anyways, the original version is okay. But there's a song called "I Might Go Crazy If I Don't Go Crazy Tonight" or something like that. Just like it's like a "With or Without You" kind of vibe, which they already did "With or Without You." So I don't know. To me, it seems like it's a mess. It took a long time. It was 5 years in the making. It wasn't very good at all. They had a greatest hits in between the last album and this one that had two new songs on it that I also hate. This is just a period in their career that I don't like at all. To me, the album is just unlistenable, and I don't own it, which is odd because again, like you, I've tried to like it, and but I'm sick and tired at my age of doing that. I'm not. Bands can have shitty albums, and bands that I love can have shitty albums, and this is a shitty album. Period. End of story. No line on the horizon.
Okay. Okay, so my last three, I hate them all. Equally at this point, so I'll just kind of, there's no really particular order here, but so this one I would say it's the only bad record the band ever recorded, and I don't think anyone is ever going to disagree with this. I've never seen anyone support this album, and again, I think one of the members was taking chemical amusement aids a little too much. And the album is Van Halen 3.
Oh, Jimmy,
Terrible.
good one.
Terrible.
Woo!
Yeah.
Are you sure you're not reading my mind for hubris on this one today?
Yeah, I mean, it was I mean, the band was kind of in chaos at this point. They were supposed, I guess they did a greatest hits album. We didn't know if Roth was back in the band or if Sammy was in the band or what was going on. Yeah. And then all of a sudden, Gary Cherone from Extreme pops up as the lead singer, which, I mean, I love Extreme and I love Gary, but it was a weird combination. It didn't make sense to me. And yeah, hearing the album, Gary's not a good fit. And
you know what I'd like to say about this, Jimmy? Lightning doesn't strike twice, but God damn it, Van Halen was lucky enough to have lightning strike twice.
Yeah.
But it never strikes three times.
No.
And you know what? It wouldn't have been an awful album if they would have called it something different than Van Halen. I'm sure they wanted the money that came along with a Van Halen release, but it's not Van Halen.
Yeah, maybe if if Eddie did a solo record or something, and a couple of the songs had Gary singing or something. I mean, but even without Gary, like the material is not good. The production's terrible. It's produced by Mike Post. I mean, Mike Post is like an amazing TV composer. Like he's did the music for almost every classic 80s TV show, including Law and Order. Like, so he's awesome, but I've never heard of Mike Post producing a rock record. So that was weird. But yeah, it sounds like, coming from Balance, that was produced by Bruce Fairbairn, who's like one of the greatest producers of all time. And then Mike Post, it didn't make sense. So there's nothing really about this that makes any sense at all. And seeing the interviews with the band, I mean, like Eddie he seems out there, just doesn't look healthy. So yeah.
I have a quick anecdote for you in your Van Halen 3, and a little bit of Toronto history. Sam the Record Man, a Toronto institution, they had a spot where you could go listen to records. You could go pick out like the CD and go somewhere, and they would open it up for you, and you could listen to it. So anyway, I would do that quite frequently because I was poor. But anyway, I remember very clearly So the listening station was where they also kept their fancy records, like the records that came in fancy cases or like the deluxe versions, which weren't as common as they are nowadays. But anyways, I can remember they had a stack, like a whole stack of Van Halen 3s behind that counter. They just did not sell well. Nobody wanted them. They truly were not very good. And I remember Eddie in an interview being like, well, the band just feels so right now. And like, Gary is the only person where like I've seen, some of the poetry he's written and I've made music based on his lyrics. And I was just like, you guys are full of shit, all of you. This is, I know you're doing it to sell us the record, but it's not working. And shame on you for selling us this drivel. Anyway.
Right, Jeff, what's your number 3?
I'm on number 4, Jimmy. Number 4 is.
Oh yeah, you are. Sorry.
Again, we're taking it to 2001 with Depeche Mode's Exciter.
Okay.
Another stinker here, Jimmy. So Depeche Mode came off the 90s with 3 of the greatest records ever made. Then they had a greatest hits. They were resting on their laurels a bit for the late 90s. No problem there with me. 2001, they come back with just a disappointing album. All like ambient noises and little clicks and clacks for drum beats and nothing to rock the dance floor like they're used to. The lead single called Dream On was like had an acoustic guitar melody to ride the song out and like, little and ticks for the percussion. Just didn't work. This album was a bit of a mess to me. There were a couple redeeming features maybe, and this is when this was the point in Depeche Mode's career where I bought the album when it came out. Like I had been a fan from the 90s, but this is where I bought the album. I went to HMV the day it came out. And I bought it and I wanted to like it, but I don't. Again, I don't own this album. It's not in my collection. I mean, I like the song called I Feel Loved. It is pretty good. That one has a place on the dance floor and rings true to the sound that they pioneered before. There's a song called The Dead of Night that is also okay. We're getting a little more into the industrial sound of things that kind of a very, very heavy, lethargic kind of drum percussive element to it. But like, just a bit of it was a misstep. Again, Depeche Mode thinking that they can do no wrong. They put it in an album that was just, it was a misstep for me. And the following tour of the next album, Playing the Angel, which was a return to form for them. They actually closed with the closing song on Exciter is called Goodnight Lovers, which is awful. It is truly, truly terrible. And they closed with that on that concert, which is something I can never understand. With all of the anthemic banger songs that Depeche Mode have, they close with Goodnight Lovers. I could never wrap my head around that. It was such a disappointment to me. However, this was the first tour I saw Depeche Mode on. They were really good. I enjoyed myself. The new songs were not very good live either. I really didn't like it. I don't like this album at all. 2001 is a forgotten era for Depeche Mode. So,
okay.
Exciter wasn't very exciting.
Okay. Fair enough. Yeah. Okay. This is a band that you hate, but I love. Can you guess?
Rush.
Yeah. Oh. So by far my least favorite Rush album, Roll the Bones.
Oh my God, Jimmy, the worst tune ever. Oh my God. Yeah. You're giving me right now all the proof I need for Rush being an awful band.
Yeah, this is not a good introduction to Rush at all. So this came out in '91. Um, all I can say is, if you search up "Roll the Bones," the music video, there's a rapping skeleton. Uh, and I even pulled up the lyrics here. Jack, relax, get busy with the facts. No zodiacs or almanacs, no maniacs and polyester slacks, just the facts. Gonna kick some gluteus max. It's a parallax, you dig? I mean, I can just go on. I mean,
Is that Geddy Lee rapping that? Because that is awful.
that's the rapping skeleton, yeah. Yeah.
Again, talk about hubris. You guys, so okay, I can remember seeing an interview with Rush, and they were like, "Well, there have been plenty of times in our career where we've taken risks, and I mean, even with Roll the Bones, I mean, when rap was considered a joke, we were embracing it in '91." And I'm like, "You guys are way off mark. You think you were embracing it? You were diluting hip hop by putting it on an album, you wankers, you." Like, I that really bothers me when people are like, "Oh, well, we were so ahead of the curve," and shut up. Just shut up. It was an awful, awful experiment.
Yeah.
Rush rapping. Oh my God, just words cannot express my anger at this.
Yeah, for me, like, I mean, besides all that stuff, I mean, I guess the only thing I do like about this record is I do like that there's a theme uh, of of taking chances with like Roll the Bones, like gambling, choosing your destiny. Like that's a cool theme, and all the songs are based on that. That's pretty cool. It's a cool concept. But with the album before Presto, and then this album, just the sound of the album is just really thin. It sounds neutered. If I was to give a word for it, it just doesn't sound like a hard hitting progressive metal band that they were in the '70s. And I love '80s Rush too. Like Rush kind of became this this sort of progressive new wave pop band in the '80s, and I thought they were great in that period too. But for whatever reason, they decided to go more minimal on these two records and pull the keyboards out. But they were left with this thin mix. So the albums is just, it's not fun to listen to. There's no oomph to any of the songs. And yeah, I mean, they're taking these weird risks at the time that made absolutely no sense for a band like them. So yeah, real stinker in their catalog. Right? you agree. We both agree on Rush for once.
Yes, for once.
Terrible album.
I gotta say, as much as I dislike Rush, Roll the Bones would be in contention for it would make the top 5 of worst recordings ever in the history of all music. I find it offensive, honestly, to listen to it. White people rapping in '91, like, they didn't have the respect of the Beastie Boys. Hey buddies, let's try something new. It's just it's
well, white
it's
people rapping.
you guys think that you can do something like this. You know what I mean? When hip hop was still struggling and striving to get to find its place, you have Rush rapping and dilute. And oh my God, the video looks like someone did it in their basement. It is so low fidelity, the effects were so cheap, and it was a mistake on every level. My last record we're going to talk about right now, we're going to bring it back to old Billy Idol here, but by extension, it could be any number of artists, Jimmy. Billy Idol made a Christmas album. And I gotta say, Jimmy, nothing is less punk rock than nothing is less punk rock than a Christmas album. And I can leave it at that. And as an extension, I think anybody that makes a fucking Christmas album as well. Again, you're out of ideas. nobody wants to hear Billy Idol sing Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer. And Billy Idol, he made a Christmas song called Yelling at the Christmas Tree, which was like his way of, maybe he wants to do something for the holidays, or he felt inspired to make a tale about Christmas time in his own, kind of the way he does things, which I don't love, but I'm okay with it. A lot of artists, I mean, Oasis did a Christmas song. They did a cover of Slade's, I think it's called "Merry Christmas, Everybody."
Okay.
And Bruce Springsteen did "Merry Christmas, Baby." Bryan Adams did "Christmas Time." U2 did that Christmas cover, which I like. But I mean, come on, leave it at that. Don't do a fucking album. Like 12 songs worth of it. I mean, Jesus Christ, that's enough. No one wants that. And Billy Idol was like, oh, I just like when the kids get together, right, at Christmas time around the tree, right? We like having all the tunes around, around the dinner table. And well, like, let Frank Sinatra do it then. Let's let Bing Crosby do it. Let's let the people that do it well do it. Or, the Christmas songs that we all grew up with. Like, let's let Sleeping Dogs Lie, Billy Idol. Okay? I'm talking to you, and I'm talking to everyone else that makes a Christmas album. You, Mariah Carey. Put it to rest. Anyway, that's my rant. I'm done with Christmas, guys.
That's awesome. The famous Christmas album, eh? Oh, jeez. Okay, so my last album, and probably the least, I'm gonna go with one of my favorite bands, Kiss. I've always loved Kiss. I don't push Kiss on anyone because I know a lot of people don't like Kiss, but I've always loved Kiss. And I'm gonna go.
This is why we love you, Jim. You're entitled to your opinions, and I respect them.
Yeah, I'm not afraid to admit that I love Kiss. I'm gonna go with their 1981 album called "Music from the Elder."
Wow,
terrible album, total mistake. Now this is also like In Through the Outdoor. I'm finding that this album has a lot of fans, which blew my mind because I think it's a pile of shit. It's basically Kiss goes
Prague.
Yeah, Kiss goes Prague. It's like Lord of the Rings or some kind of weird epic Prague mythical like adventure album. It's bizarre.
Does Rick Wakeman have a writing credit on this album, Jim?
It's so bad. Like, like when we would have like listening parties, back in the day, like, and, I would put this on as a joke and we'd all laugh at it. It was so bad. Like it was, and I'm sorry. I guess Kiss fans they're devoted and they like anything that Kiss releases, which is fine. But yeah, this album needs to be, I mean, I guess God bless you if you like this album, but oh my God, just Paul Stanley's operatic, like Broadway voice on this thing. Like, just the album sounds unfinished. Bob Ezrin was, again, the theme with the drugs. The producer was so screwed up on drugs. Like he even admits like he was absent half the time. Yeah, this is a disaster of an album. Some of the songs sound unfinished, but then again, there's some songs that have like epic orchestral arrangements that actually the orchestra sounds incredible. But it's like, on a Kiss album, and then all of a sudden the orchestra is gone, and then it comes back. It's just a mess. Ace Frehley was absent on this. I think he did one song. He hated it. The band hates it. They want nothing to do with it. So yeah. So just overall, Music from the Elder, just not a great record. I saw this this on Wikipedia. This kind of sums it up. Most participants in the album subsequently said that it was a major misstep. Ezrin, despite his recent success with the even more ambitious The Wall, admitted that his judgments concerning Music from the Elder were clouded due in large part to a cocaine addiction at the time. Stanley and Simmons admit that they were delusional concerning the project, while Frehley stated that he felt that it was not a good idea to begin with. I mean, that's kind of sums it up for me.
And Jimmy, I think what's truly amazing about your selection with this Kiss album particularly is, I mean, if you listen to some of their stuff from the late 80s and early 90s, and you pick The Elder over that, that's
Well, I mean, I will say I love Revenge. I guess that was 92. That was the band's 90s album. Love that album. Hot in the Shade. It's okay. It's okay. It's a little, I love Crazy Nights. I love Crazy Nights. I don't know. I mean, you Make Me Rock Hard is a little cheesy. You put the X in sex is a little cheesy, but
well, I don't think anybody in the history of music has ever accused Paul and Gene of being great songwriters. Or writing profound lyrics. I don't think that's.
I'll give you that. I think they write awesome, frivolous rock music. That's perfect for what it is. But yeah, is it profound? No. And I mean, maybe this was Kiss trying to be profound, which is why it just did not work at all.
I mean, Paul and Gene, God bless them. They're not Don Henley, right?
Well, and the even weirder thing was that I think this was supposed to be a movie, right? Called The Elder. So that's why it's called Music from the Elder, right? And so the movie was never made. So even the title of the record doesn't make any sense. I don't know.
Well, I think once the label took one listen to the finished product of that, they're like, yikes! oh my God. You want how much for the movie? Are you kidding us?
But you know what, though? Guaranteed, if we get any comments from this video, it might be really upset Kiss fans. Because, for some reason, this album is really getting a fan base in recent years, which is...
Here's the other thing I've noticed, Jimmy. No matter how bad I think something is, there are people that love it.
That's true. Yeah.
And so with Exciter for Depeche Mode, I can remember Martin Gore, who was the chief songwriter. He wrote all the songs back then. He's like, that's one of my personal favorites. And I was like, really? Fuck. But it wasn't so far away from Violator that you would, or U2, they never have anything bad to say about any of the things they do. They're, they may say, oh, well, maybe that one was a minor misstep, but they're never like, wow, what were we thinking with that? Man, that was awful.
Yeah.
They've never said that about anything they've ever done, which, I guess that when you're that close to something, then you can't really think something that you spent months or possibly years making is awful. But I mean, I feel like my judgments are sound when it comes to at least these guys for sure, because these guys, I really do have a good understanding of their whole catalog, and just no Christmas albums, anybody. It's just.
So, Jeff,
if I can leave everyone with just that one last comment, no Christmas albums.
Yep. Is there any dishonorable mentions that you got here?
Dishonorable mentions. Yeah, I mean, a lot of the times I think when you kind of nailed it with the Van Halen 3, when you switch singers and you think you're still going to keep doing it, I think that's a huge misstep always. Tons of groups have done it. And I mean, AC/DC did it well. And, and Van Halen did it with Sammy, but it's few and far between. I mean, I know live, we're going to go see live in STP in about 2 weeks. And, STP has that new singer who, I'm a little torn because I feel like the band is probably thinking, we're not done with this. We love making music. And just because our singer's dead doesn't mean we want to stop. And I get that. But you created a legacy with a particular performer, and now you want to change it, and Live did it with Live got a new singer maybe a decade ago. Ed the singer was out doing his own thing, and then the band continued on, calling themselves Live with a new singer. And like, actually, some of the music was kind of good. It was the Live that I knew and remembered from the mid '90s. They kind of, the darkness was back, not any of that stupid hokey lyric writing, which was happening in the 2000s, when I think it became kind of Ed Kowalczyk's band. But like, so there were elements about it that I liked, but I couldn't get over the fact that there's a new guy at the helm. Like, in terms of actual dishonorable mentions, I can think of every one of my favorite artists as an album that I'm not fond of. Nothing springs to mind. I nailed it on the head with all those ones. Oh my God, U2, they did a thing called Passengers.
Okay.
Which was just, but I gotta say too, though, they did it well. Like they called it Passengers. They didn't call it U2 and make it a U2 release. They called it something else. They called it Passengers Volume 1, and it was kind of like, it was the band, it was Bono and The Edge predominantly, and sometimes Adam Clayton and I think Larry Mullen was only on one track, and Brian Eno and Lanois were actually in the band at this point. And Larry Mullen says it was pure extravagance and pure self-indulgence. And that's what happens when a band is completely self-indulgent. But they also, like, when you're U2, that was in 1995, maybe something like that. Like, they were riding really high still. Like, you can be self-indulgent if you want, just don't call it U2, right? Don't trick people into buying your stupid side project, right? That is not part of your discography. It maybe gets honorable mention. There was one song called Miss Sarajevo, which is kind of good, but like, don't pawn off that weak shit on the people that spend their hard-earned money to support your band. I'm tired of bands. I've gotten ripped off more than I'd care to admit from bands making shitty albums or releasing multiple CD singles for a single that, because I'm a completist, I have to have everything, and just have some respect for your fans. And like, Jimmy, did you listen to Get on Your Boots while we were on the break there? Because
no, but I can try to listen to that tonight. I've got to hear them.
It's unlistenable.
Okay, I will check.
I can honestly say I don't think that there's another U2 fan out there that would say, "Hold on one sec there, Jeff. I believe you're being too harsh on Get Out Your Boots. That's my favorite song." No one on earth would say that. Maybe people are going to think I'm a little harsh when I say it's unlistenable, but that's truly how I feel about it. And I just think it's from a band that I truly love to come out with something that awful is, Oasis never did anything like that. So anyway,
I got Queen, Hot Space. I put that on my honorable mentions. Metallica, Saint Anger. Although
great one, Jim. That was a true stinker.
Yeah, or Lulu. I can't listen to that one either. Metallica and Lou Reed. Oof, wasn't good.
Oh. I remember the hype for Saint Anger too, man. They were really ramping that up like it was, oh man, these boys are back, and it was awful. Just it was just I like Load and Reload, but Saint Anger. Yep.
I also had Pearl Jam's Vitalogy was on my list. That
Good
was
one, Jimmy.
That was a big disappointment for me. Just very spotty. It had some good songs on it, but as an album, just a lot of really weird, like throwaway, like interludes. And
Jimmy, I'm going to take it one further and go no code on the Pearl Jam tip.
Yep.
What were they thinking on that one? I mean, at least Vitalogy had Better Man and Nothing Man. Corduroy, Immortality. Like there are some there's some real bangers on that one. However, No Code has there's only one song on No Code that to me is ranks amongst their greatest hits, and that's present tense.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
That album is devoid of hits. And again, Pearl Jam, I don't have that one in my collection. It was.
Yeah, I'm not a fan of Pearl Jam either. Like the avocado one. Yeah,
Self-titled. I mean, that one was. I didn't, Jimmy. I didn't hate that one. I didn't love it either, though. Like to me, it was listenable. I No Code was. The band were almost ready to break up at that point. I mean, they did a thing with Neil Young. They didn't know whether they were too famous. They were unhappy with where they were. They were unhappy being in Pearl Jam, all of them. And it sounds like a confused album by some guys that are kind of figuring it out. There's no driving force in that album. There's no one. Nobody's at the helm, steering the ship. Almost, it's like everyone's throwing out ideas, and nobody wants to. There's no commander. There's no. Everyone's putting in their 2 cents worth, and it's a jumbled mess. So, but yeah, Vitalogy too. The song "Bugs," like really.
Yeah, I mean, and that's a problem with the '90s, right? I think a lot of bands were kind of thumbing their nose at the idea of being mainstream, and fair enough, right? To kind of be punk rock, to put kind of nonsense songs on your album. I mean, that is a punk rock thing to do, which I guess it's kind of a cool idea, but yeah, I'm still from the school where you want to make a really good record. You don't want to annoy people. I don't quite understand that mentality, but I mean, I guess it's
no. And in the grand scheme of things, Jim, for Vitalogy, now that we're 30 years on from that record, really half that record is worthwhile, and half of it is complete junk. So, when you want to look back at your career, and I'm sure, like you said, they thought, it'd be punk rock to make a song about, with alarm clocks on it, like in Back to the Future. But I'm sure they view it as a misstep now that they're 30 years on, and they look at that and they're like, fuck, I mean, Versus, front to back, stellar. 10, front to back, stellar. Yield, front to back, stellar. And in the middle, we've got these anomalies that were, and thank God someone had enough sense to be like, oh my God, throw Better Man and Nothing Man on there.
Yeah. And the band came back for Yield. I think Yield is my favorite Pearl Jam album.
Mine too, Jimmy. Mine too.
Yeah. Cool. They came back.
But it would be great to, like, I don't think U2 look back on their early career and we're like, well, you know what, on this one, man, we were really self-indulgent on that one. Like, I'm sure they look back at their 80s output and they're like, man, we've got something to be proud of. You know what I mean? Like, that is a stellar output of albums that we can look back very proudly on. And maybe they got a bit self-indulgent in the 90s and all, with the Passengers and the Pop Marts and the this and that.
Yeah.
But again, just to reiterate, fans of the Jimmy Wolf Show, no covers albums, no Christmas albums. I'm talking to you, Spaghetti Album. By the way, I'm glad neither of us chose the Spaghetti Album because it was just too easy.
The Spaghetti Incident. Yeah, it's low-hanging fruit for sure. Yeah,
it is low-lying fruit. I think I'm above that, Jimmy. I'm not going to kick a band when they're down.
I mean, maybe Elton John's "Victim of Love." That's like Elton's disco album.
Elton had a lot of stinkers in the. Mind you, I like "I'm Still Standing." I like Nikita. I like Elton John's the singles from the '80s. To be honest.
Yep.
But I know that he had a lot of duds.
Well, yeah, and I would say probably like up to that record, up to "Victim of Love," Elton John probably had one of the greatest album runs of any artist, period. His 70s output was outstanding. Like,
I heard a statistic, Jimmy, where in like whether I think the year was 1980, maybe it was 1980 actually that year. The statistic was that in the last 5 years up to, so from 75 to 80, 15% of the world's music was an Elton John record.
Yep.
Whether it was the single or an album or one, just out of all the music everyone bought in the entire world, everywhere, 15% of it had Elton John on it,
Yep.
which is that's a gargantuan sales figure.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean,
he was selling a lot of records in the 70s, and
yeah, I mean, from Elton John's like self-titled album in 1970 all the way up through to Blue Moves, and I mean, it's just, I mean, every album is like perfect. It's just unbelievable. Yeah, I mean, that's just insane. So yeah, I think that's it. It's kind of like the worst is when you're listening to an artist and you've committed to this artist and you believe that they're geniuses and that they can do no wrong and they're superheroes, right? And then all of a sudden you get this album where they're probably burnt out or they're just they need a break and they release a dud record. It's disappointing, right? Because because you believe that they're geniuses, you want to believe that there's something there it's your fault for not liking it, right? Which is usually how I was. It's like, okay, I'm not getting like something. If Elton John released
I'm not listening deep enough.
Yeah, because like Elton John can't make a bad record, or Led Zeppelin can't make a bad record, right? So there's something wrong with me. But yeah, it's rock stars are humans too, right? They're mere mortals like we are too, right?
Honorable mention might go to also Adrenalize by Def Leppard.
Oh. That's a great one, actually. I totally didn't think of that one. Yeah, that was Let's Get the Rock Out of Here.
Make love like a man. Huh? I suppose the rock is out of the question, Jimmy.
And the video. Oh my God. Oh, that's a great one. I'm surprised. That one went right over my head. I should have picked that one, actually. Yeah.
No, I'm not going to lie, Jimmy. I kind of like Adrenalize, but it really does. It's very much it could be on my list of Hubris albums.
Well,
it didn't work.
It's like Hysteria. It's the gloss of Hysteria without any of the awesomeness. You know what I mean? It's just like let's make Hysteria again, but nothing except for the glossy sound translated, which is kind of I guess that's the one thing that you could criticize about Hysteria, was that it was too perfect sounding, but. Yeah,
I think that's the thing that we need to praise Hysteria for, Jimmy.
Well, because it was the first album that ever sounded like that, which I respect that. That was such it's such a, an amazing thing, but there's all that creativity that was behind that sound, right? I mean, and Adrenalize just, ugh.
With Adrenalize, they're like, hey boys, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. All right, part 2, let's go.
Hysteria.
Let's get right back in the.
Yeah, and no Mutt Lange, right?
Yeah,
no Mutt Lange. I think they had their same engineer, but no Mutt Lange. So
Mutt Lange wasn't involved at all.
Okay.
No, because I'm thinking I can, if I'm not mistaken, Jimmy, I heard that Mutt Lange was busy, and they wanted him for it, but all Mutt Lange could do was mix it for them. So they had it all recorded, but they wanted Mutt involved. And he basically said, I'll give you a weekend. That's all I can do. I can fit it in for one weekend. And he came in and kind of helped them out and did some organizing for them and maybe some tightening up of this and that.
You know what? You're right, actually. He wrote most of the songs, or he co-wrote most of the songs. Yeah. Wow. Okay.
Right, and he came in at the very end to help squish it together. He said he gave him a weekend, and Mutt Lang said he worked like from the Friday night, whatever, when he got into the whatever they were recording, right through to the Monday, with almost no sleep or whatever. And he gave them every possible second of his time that he could, because he is like the sixth member of the band.
Yep.
And but that was it. That was the extent of his involvement with that project, and that was it.
Yeah, that's a good one. That's a great one. Yeah, because it was like a near. I mean, with High and Dry, Pyromania, and Hysteria. I mean, in my opinion, those are three perfect records. 100%.
I agree, Jimmy.
So yeah, I guess
we don't like Rush, but man, do we ever love some Def Leppard.
Yeah. All right, Jeff, that's a good one. So yeah, we'll do it again soon.
By the way, Jimmy, excellent topic this time. This was all you, and but very enjoyable.
Yeah, it was fun. Yeah, it was fun.
Normally we pick things that we love. Today we pick things that we hate. So
yeah, which is very entertaining for sure.
Very entertaining for us anyway. I hope you guys all enjoyed it.
All right, guys. We'll see you again.
Take care, everyone.